Welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining us. My guest today, Kate Delaney, CEO, Delaney Media Group. Kate, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on, Michael. Always a pleasure.
All right, Kate, you've been all over the globe, trotting, doing your radio show. You got a book. I want to show everybody the new book here. So for those of us that don't know you, which is a small microcosm, give everybody a flavor for who you are, your background, what brought you to the deal, Your Own Destiny, your book, where you've been. I mean, we have a lot of things to talk about, but give us some background on you first.
Okay, so I am very excited about my book because Forbes published it, and I do a Forbes business segment called Forbes Books at Bedtime. So I've had the opportunity to meet countless rock star CEOs and also rock stars in the world of sports. Yeah. So between, I think, those two areas, business and sports, I've been able to really gather a lot of business acumen. Like, what does it take to deal your own destiny? How do you thrive? How do you survive and then thrive, I'll say? Because, as you know, with disruption and things that are happening now with technology, which is actually very exciting, but it's how you embrace it and how do you monetize it and how do you leverage. So even at very high levels, what are CEOs doing to continue to successfully grow the bottom line? And if it's a public company, keep shareholders happy, or how do you grow the smaller companies and even get them on the market and get the eyeballs and the attention that you need? And I learned a lot of that and decided that we should put it together in a book. Forbes approached me and asked me to do that. But how I got here is really interesting. I went to college to be a journalist. I wanted to be an anchor woman. I became an anchor woman in a very small, tiny place in Kearney, Nebraska, in the middle of the cornfields. That was my first break, right? I was 20 years old, and I grew up in Philly, so what did I know about farms and farming? But the farmers taught me because I had to talk about that kind of stuff on the air. And that's where I actually really kind of got the love for business, because what did they have to do? How did they get their product to market? How did they survive in the, in what I call the breadbasket of America? So I learned from them a lot about business. And as I went along, what happened eventually, I ended up in Santa Barbara, California, and I was an anchor woman. And I like sports, too. And one of the sports guys wanted to get engaged to his very attractive girlfriend, and he wanted a weekend off. So he told me I was great at sports, Michael, and I should fill in for him, right? Because he wanted the time off. So anyway, I did know a lot about sports. He felt comfortable about that. And they put me on the set, and the rest was history. So I kind of had my foot in both places, in business and news and in sports. And then I ended up with a sports talk show, and it was tough. It was 500 rejections to finally, I really had to smash my head on the glass ceiling, not because men weren't supportive, because I had a lot of men that were supportive. They just weren't the gatekeepers. And the people that were the gatekeepers didn't think a woman could drive the numbers, couldn't get ratings. And once I did syndicated, didn't think I could get affiliates. Now, today I do a show on NBC, and I'm the only woman, and this isn't bragging, but this is an actual statement. I'm the only woman who has a solo sports talk show in the United States that's syndicated, and it's on NBCSportsRadio.com, and you can hear it on SiriusXM 205 as well.
Great. Now that we're up to speed on you, takeaway on this book, and where can they get it?
You can get Deal Your Own Destiny right now for pre-sale, so pre-orders, we're taking them, and that's at KateDelaneySpeaker.com, KateDelaneySpeaker.com, and we're getting a lot of momentum. I'm going to have to cap it off at probably 800. I didn't, when you don't expect that, and not that I didn't expect that I would have success with a book, but I didn't realize with pre-orders how that would jump up. And of course I learned the publishing business from Forbes, and it created that excitement, and then it'll be wide after that. It'll be on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and hopefully in a lot of the airports that some of the people listening to this or watching this will be traveling through, and they can get a copy there if they don't already have it.
Cool. Tell me about your travels. You've been all over the place. Where have you been? Where are you now, and where are you going next?
Okay, so I just got back from, boy, it's been a whirlwind. I got back from Charleston, South Carolina. I was at an event called SmadCon, social media all day long. And of course, social media has exploded. So the people, the heavy hitters who have monetized it to incredible level superstars, famous people. There were 70 different speakers, and I was one of them. And we talked about social media campaigns. That was my specialty, and that was pretty exciting to see what's happening with a lot of different industries and where people are headed, and just personal brands. That was Charleston, and then I went from Charleston to Fort Myers, Sanibel Island. They had me come in, the tourism people, and I did a deep dive, what they would call workshop, and that was on influential listening, branding, what's your wow, how do you clearly, confidently, successfully stand out in a very crowded marketplace. And then I went from Fort Myers to New Orleans, and in New Orleans, I did the Louisiana Credit Union League. It was their annual convention and meeting, and so it was people in the credit industry who are competing for members. How do you get people to how do you thrive and survive in the credit industry versus the banks? And the banks are doing the same thing. How do you continue to get people in the doors? What are you doing that's new and exciting? And I was their closing keynote, and my closing keynote was about dealing your own destiny. So to deal your own destiny, Michael, you have to go all in, patience pays, and you have to stack the deck. So you have to have advocates, and you have to have patience, as you know, as a businessman, that it doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't. And even if you have a little bit of success, how do you maintain that? And like I said in the beginning of this, how do you thrive and grow that even bigger?
You can see, where are you going to go next?
So next, I go to Chicago. I'm going to be doing something for Forbes Publishing. I'll be there with them, Advantage Media and Forbes. And then after Chicago, I go to Los Angeles, and I'll be doing an opening keynote for IAEE, which is the International Association of Events and Exhibitions.
Now, you also do a lot of work with women's groups.
I do a lot of work with women's groups, and I did a couple of big workshops maybe a month or two ago. I did one for a company where they had people coming in internationally to talk about how do you exist in a man's world? How do you get on paid boards? How do you move from middle management to top management? How do you get into the CEO ranks and really hold your own? Mm-hmm. And so that's been a lot of fun. I've done a couple of those just recently, and then I have a few more coming up too as well, where I'm in a company doing a women's leadership group.
That's commendable. What else do you want to talk about today? I'm going to give you an open forum.
I love that. I want to talk about your jacket. Your jacket is great. I do. I love that color. I'm serious. The other thing to talk about is I do a podcast called Invade, because of the women's groups and other people wanting to know about sports or wanting to know about business or wanting to know about men. I launched a podcast called Invade the Man Cave. And I guess we're in the very beginning of that. It's like I'm on the fourth episode. And I've had some actors stop by. I've had some famous athletes on it. I've had some business people on it as well. And it's a whole lot of fun doing that.
Doesn't it strike fear in the heart of some of these guys? Invade the man cave. I mean, that was our last vestige. This is ours. Everything else is yours.
Well, there is, she sheds now, or she caves, as they call them.
Yeah.
So smart men are getting their women that they care about she sheds, and they have their own space, right? Yeah. I'll tell you something funny for those of you listening. If you happen to be in Florida, Labor Day weekend, I'm kicking off college football. I guess so that would be Saturday, September 1st, and I'll be at the NBC Grill and Brew Pub. They have 100 televisions, 100 screens everywhere, so that you have all these college football games, and I'm kicking off college football for NBC there, doing that show live. I'm excited about that. It's 3 to 6 Eastern, right there at Universal.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching. This has been Kate Delaney, a good buddy of mine, and I'll tell you about some stories later, but she's great. All right. You've been watching CEO Money with Michael Yorba and, yes, buy the book, Kate Delaney. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.